moistly.
Welcome to Speaking Moistly, everyone. And Greg, welcome again this week. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Mark. How are you?
I am doing very, very well. Lots going on this week, I guess. The not happening confidence vote, the cases for COVID-19, and a whole bunch of crazy ideas. Just
another
ideas.
day. Just another day in the dystopia. You know?
Yeah, it does. It seems more and more like a Black Mirror episode every day. You wake up and you think,
We're definitely living through historic times, which is exciting. I try to tell myself that today. Like, okay, this is history we're going
yes,
through.
Yeah. I mean, I hope you're keeping a diary, right?
Yep.
The diary. I don't aim for Anne Frank, but Greg's diary. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. His idea for patio domes seemed perfect for a Toronto winter with COVID-19, except they weren't allowed, so he called Doug Ford. And Doug Ford liked his idea of these patio domes for cold weather dining. And so Blog TO is reporting Toronto restaurants are turning to outdoor bubble dining. Here's how it works. How it works is essentially you're inside in a little bubble, but the waiter's moving back and forth between bubbles, presumably, and they're going to see the cooks, and they're carrying plates that the cooks are touching and all of that other stuff. There's lots of concerning points that would make it, well, I mean, the restaurants are equipped to dine inside right now, and wouldn't you think that that would be a lot more comfortable for everyone? There's a lot of problems with this. What do you think, Greg?
This seems like another weird gimmick that's supposed to make people feel better. I feel like it's on the same level as take your mask off, or sorry, put your mask on while you walk to your table and take it off when you get there. Really, what is the science? What is the the physics of the germs moving around here? And I know a restaurateur, and actually near the beginning of this lockdown, she was telling people on social media, you do realize that a restaurant is probably one of the cleanest places you could go. There's so many regulations already in terms of wiping things down, keeping things clean. So, I mean, really, I see how this is being used, because it's you can only dine on patios now. And so they're putting the domes on the patios to keep it warm, like it's inside. And it's just very strange to think that this is, changing anything or doing anything positive. I also want to add that it's kind of spitting in the face once again to small business owners. Yep. It's hey, what, you can't afford the expensive domes. You don't have patio space. And even in this one article, it's larger restaurants who are taking advantage of this, that have lots of capital to use to create their domes, and it's just another kind of higher bar of entry for small businesses.
Right, and if you can't use your indoor dining, and you're walking down the street in Toronto, and you can take out in one restaurant, or their indoor dining is full, but they've got outdoor patios. Well, I guess I'll keep my coat on. I guess it's a little chilly out here. I'd like to be inside, but I guess I'll keep where's the bathroom again? Oh, I'll put my mask on. As you said, where's the science to back any of this? To back this is better than indoors, or the outdoor bubble is better than indoors. Where's the science to back that up? The thing is, when you say where's the science, the people who don't want us to talk about that get upset that you're asking for the science, but they claim that they're following the science. But then when we ask for it, they get upset about that. They say, oh, well, that's not, we can't talk about that because of secrets or whatever. And I don't think that people are believing it. I don't know.
Yeah. And here's my tinfoil hat comment. I'm not saying I believe this, but it's they're just trying to get us used to living in tents. They're trying to get us used to living in these little tent structures. But that's obviously, I'm just kind of saying that facetiously.
Well, I mean, but not even facetiously. Going out to a restaurant, if you have a restaurant, that is representing a significant time, effort, cost, not to mention monetary cost, monthly rent. You hope to make. You're hoping to turn. I worked at Taco Bell when I was a kid. We were hoping to turn, we had a $5,000 hour, and everybody was like, yeah, we're all happy about this. And it was a corporate owned store. But if you own a restaurant, you're trying to turn money. It's a money making business. And if you can't cover your rent, if you can't cover those expenses like payroll, like food costs, right? People don't understand. They think this stuff just poofs out of nowhere. But the fewer restaurants there are, the fewer restaurants that can make these kind of modifications easily, and they can't make these kind of modifications easily. It's not cheap to do this. The fewer restaurants that will survive this unbelievable draconian lockdown. And I don't think that it's appropriate to claim on one side that we've got a government that's spending money, taxpayer money, borrowed taxpayer money to help people, when at the same time they're stifling the ability to open when the numbers are so low. And we'll look at the numbers in just a minute. Well, I'll bring them up just really briefly. We've got 312 in the hospital, 75 in the ICU, 52 on a ventilator as of this morning. I don't know that those numbers call for the complete and total destruction of our economy. And from the bottom up, right? From the small businesses up.
Yeah, and it's very strange because it reminds me of the kind of green energy trend. It's like this trendy thing that only certain businesses who are, of a certain size are really able to take advantage of. Not all small businesses can buy these like little tents. And I also find it very ironic that, more plastic.
Yeah. Single-use plastics, everyone. I mean, maybe that's multi-use. Have you heard about the hockey equipment? There's going to be a hockey equipment. The single-use plastic ban impacts hockey equipment in a big way. I wish, I'll see if I can find that. I'll look for the link after, because I have to pick up my kids and we have less time than we usually have. So I'm not going to waste it by running to find a link. But yeah, it impacts the hockey equipment in a big way, apparently. And you said, it's conditioning us and blah, 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 blah. I don't know about conditioning us, but it is certainly targeting small businesses, making it so that big businesses, big conglomerates, places that can afford to have like multinational companies, right? Like, I've got one chain in London and one chain in Paris and one chain in Toronto. You can kind of survive because you can move things back and forth a little bit, and that's harder internationally. But fundamentally, they have a better chance of surviving than mom and pop shop that have no customers and bills, right? Bills piling up.
Yeah, it's just another like startup cost or maintenance cost. Like, you need to pay for your domes.
Yeah, your dome, your PPE domes.
Wait,
how do we know they work again? Don't ask that question, citizen. Just appreciate the freedom you live under.
Exactly.
Unbelievable. Speaking of freedom that you live under, CTV Ottawa is reporting police break up a massive party at Chelsea, Quebec, Airbnb over the weekend, fining 83 students $1,000 each. Here's the article. Can you imagine going to a party? That's an expensive party. There's the comments in the tweets split about 50-50. They say 50% say this is irresponsible of the students. 50% are saying, good, I hope more kids do this and fight the charges and blah, blah, blah. This is the only way out. I feel like this is an attempt at not crowd control, but like, see what happens if you don't step out of line. See these kids? They're $1,000 each, right? $1,000 a pop.
Making an example of them. Yeah. I'm not surprised that students would do this. Wow, students went to an Airbnb to party and they're university students. Oh, I'm shocked.
I mean, where else are you going to go when the bars are closed, right? Like, I'm going to rent an Airbnb. Forget about it, right? And sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if you juxtapose these fines with what's happening with the next story we're going to cover, I think it's very interesting. But I do want to say that because like there's this idea in the mainstream that these students, these are the people why there's more cases. These are the people why grandma is dying, and I don't know. It's just like, how far have we come where we're vilifying a university student or a group of university students for like partying?
Yep.
It's very strange times.
It is. And to get to the next story that you were alluding to there, Quebec is using long-term care homes to house COVID-19 patients who aren't residents. Regional health agencies in Quebec, so these are the people who are in charge, the health agencies, are asking public long-term care homes to establish hot zones to accommodate COVID-19 patients who don't live in those facilities. But some staff and family members, scared by treatment or scarred by treatment of residents during the first wave, worry the move could lead to cross-contamination and more outbreaks inside the home. Can you imagine first, and I think I said this during my morning show today, but being in a care home, having somebody say, the public health agencies told us we have to make room here for COVID patients, but don't worry, they'll be down the hall. And then you test positive for COVID and, have a negative consequence from that, i.e. you die, like you don't get whatever medication Trump got and you pass away. Like, who's responsible? Those COVID people were brought into that care home because of the government order. So like, this seems just wild. What do you think?
for anyone who's paying attention to this stuff, it's so insulting.
Hmm.
It's so insulting that there's all these different rule changes, and it's all under the premise of we're going to keep people safe. We're going to keep people safe. And since there is never really much of a conversation about how we should be keeping, the elderly more safe, more
Yeah.
safe,
Well,
things,
yeah.
things like this happen, and it's just so insulting. It's so like, man, like, do these people just have contempt for the public? Like, I don't know. It seems like they think we're idiots
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. It's really disturbing to see. It really upsets me, honestly.
Yeah, no, it is frustrating. There's a couple of quotes. First, I'll say at the bottom of the article, it says it can be done safely. Experts says, or one expert says. I don't trust the experts. This guy doesn't look all that confident. And up here, I'll read a couple of quotes. It says, "We're doing all this to keep COVID-19 out of the building, and now we're bringing it inside," they said. The local health agency didn't respond to a request to confirm the news, but other health networks are confirming that they're setting up red zones and long-term care homes for patients from the community. And they've already welcomed some of those patients as well, which is just unbelievable, right? Just unbelievable. Can you imagine having to endure a lockdown at a long-term care facility because of a COVID outbreak from the community that got put into your long-term care facility? Just
Yeah, and I mean, God forbid this happens, but it's like, oh, there's an outbreak in the long-term care facility. A bunch of elderly die. It's not going to be how the local public health messed up. The story's not going to be about that. The story's going to be, look at all these deaths.
well, right. Yeah.
Look at all these deaths. We need to go into another lockdown.
Yeah.
And it's the people that didn't wear the masks that messed up. And it's like, well, what about the local health authority that decided to put COVID positive people into a long-term care home?
Yeah.
Like, hello.
Yep. And I've made this point before as well, but the daily cases we've got are 790 on the 21st, 1,042 on the 25th, and the deaths in relation to those cases are 6, 9, 6 on the 24th, 6 on the 26th. So you're right, the deaths aren't there. And comparing to the first wave, we would have 347 cases, and then in a similar time frame, 27 deaths. So, and the whole way they're calculating this is suspect as well. So very, very concerning and not very trustworthy, right? Not very transparent, right? I thought we were talking about transparency is the buzzword of the government these days, right? Not very much transparency. Moving on, strippers advocacy group seeks judicial review of Ontario strip club closure. I've talked a lot about how it has to be business led. I think this is the way out of this lockdown, by taking off your mask and opening your business and saying, okay, give me the fine, and we're going to see about that in court. And the government can't promise to keep you safe, certainly not by just closing businesses that they decide through they decide through science, but it's science they don't want to share. And we're just supposed to accept it, right? There's business groups in Ottawa that are pushing back against this, and I'll just read this really quick. An advocacy group representing Ontario strippers is asking a judge to declare the province's closure of all strip clubs in response to COVID-19 unconstitutional. The group argues that the measure impacts strippers' charter rights to freedom of expression and association in a safe, secure environment, and the right to work freely in their chosen environment. Well, I think they've got some grounds there for a charter violation, right? So good news-ish? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about people with a strong immune system, no, but I mean, I have a tremendous respect for that industry.
I would say teachers would have the better immune system. Carry on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's another day in the dystopia where we have people in the, what do you call it? Adult entertainment performance industry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find a better classier word than stripper.
Strippers, yeah.
Even they are, becoming activists. I bet they didn't imagine that this was going to happen, that they were going to be fighting against Doug Ford and saying like, hey, we want our strip clubs back. We want our work back.
Well, and just basic rights, just basic charter rights, but the ability to congregate in a secure environment, to the work to work freely in your chosen environment. We've classified this as a valid work, and it is. And like, why is this? Why are gyms not allowed to open? Why are strip clubs not allowed to open? Why are strip clubs not allowed to open, but dance studios are? You could go dancing, not stripping.
Yep.
COVID-19 is not an STD. Like, I don't want to understate this. Strippers, like, people may be thinking that it's kind of funny. Sure, maybe it's kind of funny, but this is an advocacy group representing a group of people who have an interest to have their charter rights viewed as valid by this government. And currently the government is saying, no, 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 we know better. Where's the evidence? This is a respiratory illness, not anything to do with anything else. Why do clothes matter to the virus? Is this the smartest? The virus knows you're in a strip club but doesn't know you're in a dance studio?
Right. Once again, it just seems like a bunch of arbitrary rules.
Yeah.
And I think that this advocacy group is a representation of just one industry, because this is happening everywhere, right? Like this is affecting people's livelihoods. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, that is the real story. Like, yeah, it's affecting this industry. It's affecting many, many, many other industries as well. These people are just organized and actually deciding to stand up for it and do something about it. And I think you make a great point right at the top there, where you said, I think this is going to be a business-led thing to get us out of lockdown here, because something's got to give here, folks.
Yeah, well, and I mean, it's a point too, where something like cutting hair, right? Barbershops. If at the beginning that was shut down, I had really long hair, and my son and I have our COVID cuts, right? And a picture before we got our hair cut. But if they could just unilaterally shut something like that down with next to no evidence, and then after 8 months of living with this thing, of looking at this thing, of having people in long-term care homes, and then make this many missteps, if a lockdown worked, why do we need a second lockdown, right? If this was the key to fixing things, why do we need a second lockdown? What's the goal of a lockdown? And the thing is, it bothers me that there's no criteria, right? Two things bother me. There's no criteria for repealing mandatory masks. It doesn't seem like there's criteria for really opening back up to normalcy. What do they want? 0 COVID-19 positive tests?
You already flattened the curves.
Yeah, the tests are false positive anyway. So there's no criteria, and there's no ability to meaningfully push back. They're trying to say, I think it was Yaf or one of the health experts the other day said, we think that the Thanksgiving holiday is the reason for the increase in cases. I've never heard much more stinky bullshit in my entire life. It is just unbelievable. They're using nothing. They're not citing anything. I decided this morning, 5 minutes ago, before coming up to this press conference microphone, that it is all of the family's faults at Thanksgiving. And I don't have any data to back it up, but I'm pretty sure that's what's happened. That's what's happened, definitely. You're killing grandma.
And it's at the point where, I mean, am I going too far to call some of this psychological terrorism? I mean, anybody who watches the CBC, everything, and believes everything they hear on the CBC or the National or whatever, I mean, it would drive somebody insane.
Yeah.
They're trying to follow these rules. They change every 5 minutes. Yeah. And then they're saying the enemy is other citizens who aren't wearing their masks. And by the way, it's the people who went to spend time with their family members. Like, shame on those people. Yeah. It would drive somebody insane, especially if they're taking everything that they hear completely seriously.
Well, and even weaponizing kids trick-or-treating, right? Like, kids are going to go trick-or-treating this year. And I've heard people talking about how that's a bad idea, how it's an unnecessary risk. It's like, it's Halloween, it's outside. What's the unnecessary risk? Can you explain it to me? This just doesn't sit right.
I'm always tempted to bring up Sweden in this context. Yes. They didn't do a lockdown. I'm just kind of curious if you've looked into that at all, or how.
Yes, yeah. I had probably an afternoon of conversation with a person, and I don't know if they're legitimate. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. They sent me a message and said, I like your show, but I don't like how you report on Sweden like there's no problems. And he sent me a couple issues, links talking about how Sweden was starting to lock down certain neighborhoods, blah blah blah. And I went and read that, and then I looked for an English news Sweden site, and I looked up the lockdowns, and the lockdowns that he was referring to were voluntary, and then they were repealed a couple of days later, I believe. And then a couple of days after that, Sweden opened up all COVID restrictions for anybody above 70. They were like, well, you've got to live. Like, we're not going to just lock you down for the rest of your life. You have to live. So in that context, yeah, I've looked into Sweden, and it looks like there were people who were trying to push a lockdown in the last couple of weeks, but the people again pushed back and said, no, I don't think so. No, it's not going to happen here. Thank you very much. We're good. So that's what I know about Sweden, and I could be wrong. You know, like I'm certainly not the expert on Sweden, but to me, it seems like we've got a lot of very valuable data locked away, and we're not allowed to pay any attention to it in Sweden, and we've got politicians who claim to know exactly what we need. What we need is a big recipe of financial disaster and another lockdown, and then question mark back to the new normal. And that's just not good enough. It's not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's it started with, hey guys, we're just going to lock down for 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yep.
And now, quite frankly, like the very culture of our society has been altered.
Yep. Yes, yeah. And we've never. I just want to make you're totally right, but we've never altered the culture of our and the fabric of our society over an illness ever in our past. And here we are enthusiastically embracing it, removing statues, saying all sorts. And I mean, like that goes off into some scary places that I alluded to this morning in my show, but. Yeah, we don't do this, and yet here we are.
Yeah, and it's in a way, it's the kind of narrative and the way in which they're kind of pushing the fear and like safety. It's bringing out the worst in the populace, almost like the helicopter parent in all of us. That's like, okay, well, we need to make sure that nothing bad ever happens and that nobody ever gets sick. And, when you do this, you don't allow your child or you don't allow people to, make mistakes or, let their immune system go for a spin, which is like, I think about kids right now and it's like, I can't imagine, especially for them, like it definitely is dystopia for them.
Oh, yeah. Well, the mask wearing in schools, terrible. But speaking about that, I have to cut us off because I do have to go get my kids and the bus driver is always on time. And so thank you for, I'm sorry that, because I always enjoy our conversations and I'm sure we could do another 10 minutes, but I'm just like, I have to go. So it kind of sucks, but maybe we'll get together earlier next week. What do you think?
Yeah. Next Tuesday. Let's do it.
1:30. Sounds good. And to the viewers, thank you for watching. Sorry we maybe couldn't get into, we didn't get into one tab. Liberals' plan to replace fossil fuels with wind and solar is technically impossible and economically disastrous, just like all of the other liberal idiocy plans. But here we are. Here we are. Oh, well. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co to check out Greg and my back catalog. And Greg, where are you at?
Check out my YouTube channel, Greg Wycliffe.
Nice. And Prime Minister Trudeau, play us out. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Moistly, keep 2 meters apart, speaking moistly.